Chapter 1. The conversation you never knew you were having. You didn't come here by coincidence. Something beneath thought, beneath logic, beneath everything you call chance, has been leading you here step by step. Every coincidence that made you pause, every repeating number, every dream that seemed to echo in waking life was part of the same dialogue. The universe has been speaking to you for as long as you've been alive. You simply forgot how to hear it. Neville Goddard called it the bridge of incidents. Jung called it synchronicity. Science calls it probability. But behind every name hides the same truth. Reality is not mute. It listens and replies with mathematical precision to the frequency of your own awareness. Think back to a time when something impossible seemed to line up perfectly. You thought of a person seconds before they called. You imagined a scene that later played out word for word. You brushed it off as coincidence, but deep down you felt the spark of recognition. It wasn't chance. It was conversation. The field you live in is not passive. It mirrors you in real time. The thoughts you sustain, the emotions you repeat, the images you hold with feeling become the vocabulary through which the universe responds. Each symbol, each repetition, each event is a word in that language. Neville Goddard spent his life decoding this conversation. He discovered that what most people call fate is simply imagination operating unconsciously. Every desire, every fear, every deeply felt assumption sends ripples through the invisible structure of creation. Those ripples reorganize matter itself until your outer life matches your inner conviction. He called imagination God in action. Not metaphor, not poetry, but literal mechanics. The imagination, he taught, is the creative core of reality, the part of you that selects which version of the universe becomes visible. When you imagine with feeling, you speak the original language of creation. Listen closely now, because the universe is speaking in this very moment. It speaks through the energy behind your attention. If your attention is scattered, the messages feel random. When your attention steadies, reality starts answering clearly. This is the first secret of the language. Attention is transmission. Every time you dwell on a thought long enough for it to feel real, you've already sent a signal. That signal doesn't vanish. It begins to echo back as synchronicities. People you meet, words you overhear, songs that play at the perfect moment. All of them are returning vibrations from what you previously broadcast. Goddard called this chain of returning echoes the bridge of incidents. Imagine walking across a bridge where every plank appears just before your foot touches it. Each plank is an event, a coincidence, a conversation arranged by the unseen intelligence that connects everything. From this view, nothing in your life has ever been random. Every delay, every detour, every chance meeting was architecture, the universe laying out the next plank under your feet. Most people never realize they're the ones directing the construction. They call it luck, destiny, divine intervention. But once you see the pattern, you understand that reality is not happening to you, it's happening through you. The mind resists this truth because it dismantles the illusion of control. You were taught to push, to plan, to force outcomes through effort. But the universe doesn't speak the language of effort. It speaks the language of feeling. Feeling is the vibration that imprints reality. When you feel something deeply, fear, joy, love, certainty, the field reads that feeling as instruction. It begins assembling the outer world to match it. Thought is the picture. Feeling is the electricity that lights it. Without the charge of emotion, imagination is just static. With it, imagination becomes command. Neville understood this not as theory, but as lived reality. He told his students again and again, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That single instruction holds the entire code of creation. Because the moment you feel what you desire is already real, you begin to speak the universe's native tongue. This language has no alphabet. Its words are vibration. Its grammar is belief. Its syntax is repetition. The universe does not interpret your sentences, it mirrors your frequency. If you believe yourself small, life will echo smallness. If you feel abundance as natural, abundance arrives. Jung approached the same mystery from another angle. He mapped how inner states projected outward as events. He found that certain dreams, symbols, and numbers appeared right before breakthroughs or disasters, as if the psyche were conversing with the cosmos. He realized that meaning itself was the bridge, events connected not by cause, but by significance. What Jung saw scientifically, Neville lived practically. The inner and the outer were never two realms. They were one continuous conversation. Right now, as you listen, this conversation is active. The way the air feels, the thought passing through your mind, the coincidence that will happen later today, all of it is part of this same exchange. Take a breath and test it. Think of something gentle but clear, a color, an image, a phrase. Hold it with quiet certainty, not strain, then release it. Don't search for proof, simply go about your day. Within hours, the field will answer. You'll see that color, hear that phrase, notice that image in the most unexpected way. That's the reply, the universe confirming that you were heard. It always hears. The real question is whether you are listening. Listening to the universe is not about analyzing signs with anxiety. It's about relaxing into awareness. It's about noticing what has always been communicating. The language of the universe is subtle but constant, patterns repeating until you recognize the message. The same situation appearing in different costumes. The same emotional theme replaying until you integrate its meaning. Once you start decoding these patterns, life stops feeling chaotic. It becomes orchestral. Each person who enters your life plays a note in your symphony. Each delay in your plans introduces a new rhythm meant to guide you to timing that your logical mind couldn't foresee. Neville used to tell his students that divine imagination doesn't rush. The bridge of incidents unfolds with perfect rhythm. Your role is to stay faithful to the end result, not to control the path. When you maintain the feeling of completion, the universe arranges the details. You can witness this orchestration in real time. The next time something unexpected disrupts your schedule, pause before reacting. Ask silently, "What coordination is this?" More often than not, the detour leads directly to an opportunity you couldn't have planned. The universe speaks fluent coincidence. To converse fluently, you must match its calm certainty. Doubt translates as static. Gratitude translates as clarity. Curiosity opens channels. Resistance closes them. The field mirrors your internal climate with exquisite precision. Begin to see your life as correspondence, letters written in events instead of ink. The phone call that arrives just as you think of someone is punctuation. The repeating number you notice is emphasis. The dream that overlaps with waking events is a paragraph from your deeper self. And if you've ever wondered why some people seem to live surrounded by synchronicity while others rarely notice any, the answer is simple: awareness. Those who expect the conversation to exist perceive it everywhere. Those who dismiss it live deaf to their own echoes. Reality does not play favorites, it plays frequencies. You are already fluent in this language, you just forgot how to translate your own vibrations. Every emotion you feel, every assumption you hold, every belief you repeat is a word the universe understands perfectly. When you start choosing those words deliberately, you stop waiting for signs and start creating them. That is the beginning of mastery. That is where unconscious manifestation ends and conscious creation begins. This video, this moment, is itself a synchronicity. The field arranged it. Your curiosity summoned it. And now, something inside you remembers the truth. You've been in conversation with the universe all along. The question is, what will you say next? Chapter 2, When Reality Starts Replying. The first time you recognize that the universe has answered you, It feels almost like a dream leaking into waking life. You notice a symbol repeating everywhere, a number, a word, a melody. You wonder if it's just coincidence, yet the repetition keeps appearing until you can't ignore it anymore. That's how the conversation begins. Reality speaks through echo and reflection. It uses people, places, and timing as its vocabulary. Jung called these meaningful coincidences, events connected not by cause but by significance. Neville Goddard called them bridges of incidents, the invisible chain of moments connecting your inner assumption to its outer fulfillment. Once you start listening, you realize these two descriptions point to the same phenomenon, the universe responding to consciousness. Imagine that your thoughts are signals and the world around you is the receiver. Each feeling you sustain sends a tone into the field. When that tone matches certain frequencies in reality, they begin to resonate. Those resonances appear as synchronicities. They are the universe's way of saying, "Message received." The more coherent your signal, the faster and clearer the reply. You've already experienced this countless times. The phone rings the moment you think of someone. A song plays that answers the question you were silently asking. You open a random page of a book and find the exact line that speaks to your situation. These are not accidents. They are confirmations that reality is participatory. Neville taught that the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the key to this dialogue. The universe doesn't answer words, it answers states. When you occupy a state of certainty, the field arranges itself to match that certainty. When you dwell in doubt, the field mirrors hesitation. The outer is always a photograph of the inner. Consider the atmosphere inside your body as a transmitter. If you are broadcasting fear, you'll perceive a fearful world. If you cultivate gratitude, opportunities appear effortlessly. The universe never punishes or rewards. It synchronizes. In Neville's language, this synchronization is the bridge of incidents, the sequence of events that unfold once your internal state is set. He described it as a self-assembling pathway. You don't have to construct the bridge. You only need to walk it as it appears. To walk the bridge requires trust, the kind of trust that feels like exhaling. The ego wants to control how and when things happen, but the bridge doesn't respond to control. It responds to faith. Faith, in this context, isn't blind belief. It's an emotional certainty that what you've assumed is already real, even if the senses haven't caught up yet. When that certainty becomes natural, the bridge begins to materialize. This is when life becomes mystical in its precision. A conversation overheard on the street contains the next step you need. An unexpected delay leads you directly to the opportunity you couldn't have planned. A random encounter becomes the pivotal link that changes everything. The mind calls it coincidence. The soul calls it choreography. Jung understood this choreography as the psyche's way of guiding itself toward wholeness. He noticed that patients on the verge of breakthroughs often experience surges of synchronicity, dreams aligning with events, symbols appearing repeatedly, patterns surfacing in impossible ways. He realized that reality itself participates in the healing of consciousness. Neville extended that realization to creation itself. To him, every synchronicity was a mirror reflecting back the feeling you had already impressed upon consciousness. Once you understood that link, you could create deliberately. Reality, he said, is like a mirror that always delays its reflection just long enough for you to forget what expression you made. Then suddenly, it shows you exactly what you've been broadcasting. That's why awareness is everything. The universe is constantly reflecting your dominant state, not your fleeting moods, but your sustained feeling about life. If you hold the vibration of lack, events will echo scarcity. If you hold the vibration of completion, life will echo fulfillment. To understand how precisely this reflection works, you must learn to observe without judgment. Observation in this sense isn't passive, it's creative. Every time you look at something with meaning, you add energy to that pattern. When you worry, you are energizing what you fear. When you appreciate, you are amplifying what you love. The field responds instantly to attention. Attention is creative currency. Where you spend it, life expands. This is why Neville emphasized inner conversation. He taught that the words you repeat silently are the seeds of your future experience. Inner talking, he called it, is the true prayer. You don't petition an external power. You converse with yourself as the divine imagination. Every internal dialogue becomes a decree to the universe. Pay attention to what you say when no one is listening. Those are the commands creation obeys. Now consider how symbols operate in this conversation. The universe doesn't always reply with direct answers. It speaks in metaphor. A butterfly might appear to signal transformation. A repeated number might confirm alignment. The same phrase showing up in multiple contexts might mark a transition. These symbols are not random. They are archetypal language emerging from the collective field. When you recognize a symbol, acknowledge it with gratitude. That acknowledgement acts like a response letter. The field strengthens communication with every recognition. You don't need to decode every detail. Simply feeling the significance is enough. Meaning itself is the key. The moment you feel that an event is meaningful, it becomes part of the dialogue. Jung described this as the numinous quality of synchronicity, the sensation that something larger is participating in your experience. That feeling of awe isn't imagination. It's your system registering resonance with the deeper pattern, and the deeper pattern is intelligent. It knows exactly how to assemble your life into coherence. The synchronicities you notice are surface ripples of that hidden order. Neville called this hidden order the law. Consciousness is the only reality, he said. When you change your inner consciousness, the outer world must rearrange. It isn't optional. The law is mechanical. Feeling impressed upon consciousness must externalize. So how do you align your inner world to receive these replies consciously? It begins in stillness. Not forced silence, but relaxed awareness. Spend time each day simply watching your thoughts without chasing them. Notice the tone of your inner conversation. If it's filled with worry, shift it gently toward assurance. If it's self-critical, soften it into self-acceptance. The goal isn't perfection but coherence. From this stillness, begin a new inner dialogue. Speak to yourself as if you are the universe listening. Say silently, I am already living in harmony. I am already guided. I am already in conversation with life itself. Feel the truth of those words until they stop sounding like affirmations and start feeling like facts. When feeling and thought merge, you've begun to speak the secret language. The universe will answer quickly, often within hours. You might hear your own words echoed back by another person. You might encounter a sudden series of coincidences that mirror your new state. These are not tests. They are confirmations. And remember, confirmations multiply when you acknowledge them. Every thank you is an amplifier. Gratitude tells the field that you understand the language, and so it speaks more clearly. As you practice this awareness, you'll notice that life feels different. Ordinary days become charged with subtle electricity. Every encounter carries the potential for revelation. Even challenges feel purposeful, as if something in them is guiding you toward a deeper state of mastery. That's because the bridge of incidents never stops building. Even difficulty is part of its construction. When something collapses unexpectedly, pause before labeling it loss. Often, the universe removes structures that can't hold your next vibration. The job that ends, the relationship that dissolves, the plan that fails, all of them might be clearings for what you've been calling in. Goddard taught that you must persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled even through apparent contradiction. The outer world is slower than imagination. It takes time for matter to catch up with consciousness. The bridge may wobble, but it is carrying you exactly where you asked to go. Every time you hold the feeling of completion, you reinforce the structure beneath your steps. Every time you doubt, you temporarily dissolve part of it. Yet even doubt serves as instruction. It teaches you the tone of misalignment so you can return to harmony. When you finally understand that life's delays and coincidences are the same process, you stop judging them separately. You realize that everything is communication. The universe never goes silent. It simply changes dialects. This is why Neville told his students, "Signs follow. They do not precede." The field doesn't give reassurance before faith. It responds to faith. You assume the state first, then life answers through synchronicity. So if you find yourself waiting for proof, remember this. The waiting itself delays the proof. The moment you relax into knowing, the proof begins. Take this as your experiment. Tonight, before sleep, choose one small desire, something simple, like receiving a kind message, seeing a particular word, or feeling unexpected joy tomorrow. Don't beg for it. Assume it. Imagine the scene after it's already happened. Feel the satisfaction as if it were present now. Then drift into sleep carrying that feeling. Tomorrow, watch how reality arranges itself. The message will come, the word will appear, the joy will surface in an unforeseen way. It may be subtle, but you'll know when it happens. That knowing is the beginning of fluency. The more fluent you become, the more precise the replies. Eventually, you won't need to ask at all. You'll live in a continuous flow of dialogue, a seamless feedback loop between your inner and outer worlds. The universe has always been talking to you. You're simply learning to recognize its tone. And as you do, you'll realize that the voice of the universe and your own imagination are not two voices. They are one. Chapter 3. The symbols between worlds. The more fluent you become in the language of reality, the more you begin to notice that its alphabet is made of symbols. The universe does not whisper in words, it paints in patterns. It composes with repetition. It leaves you trails of imagery that feel too exact to dismiss, yet too subtle to prove. Those are the words of the cosmic language. Symbols are the bridge between your conscious and subconscious mind, between imagination and manifestation, between the unseen and the visible. They are how the deeper field translates vibration into meaning. Jung called them archetypes, timeless structures through which consciousness expresses itself. Neville called them shadows of feeling, echoes of an inner assumption made visible. Both were describing the same process. Your inner world forming the metaphors your outer world speaks back to you. Consider the numbers that seem to follow you. You check the clock and it's 11:11 again. A receipt reads 22.22. You wake up at 3:33 for weeks without an alarm. Logic calls it coincidence. Awareness recognizes it as calibration. The field communicates through numerical rhythm because numbers are pure frequency. They are cosmic coordinates marking where you stand within your unfolding bridge. When you see these numbers, the message is not external. It is feedback. It is the universe mirroring your level of coherence. Repeated 11s say, you are aligned. 5s announce, change is forming. 9s whisper, a cycle completes. Each sequence is less prediction and more conversation, a pulse from the deeper intelligence letting you know that your signal has been received and that the translation into form is underway. Once you notice these numerical echoes, something profound happens. Reality becomes interactive. You no longer move through a mute environment. You walk through a responsive field that adjusts its symbols in real time. Your life turns into a living mandala, patterns evolving as your consciousness evolves. This is not superstition. It is pattern recognition sharpened by awareness. The subconscious already knows this language. It speaks it fluently through dreams. Dreams are nightly transmissions from the same intelligence that arranges your waking world. When you learn to interpret them symbolically rather than literally, you realize that both dreams and events are made of the same material, consciousness organizing itself. Imagine dreaming of water overflowing. The next day, emotions surge unexpectedly or new opportunities pour into your life faster than expected. The dream was not prophecy. It was translation, the subconscious previewing the vibration becoming physical. Jung recorded hundreds of such dreams coinciding with outer events. He realized that the psyche and the cosmos are not separate domains. They are two sides of one mirror. He called it the unus mundus, the one world where inner and outer are continuous. Neville experienced this principle through deliberate creation. He taught that when a symbol appears repeatedly in your imagination, it is not random. It is the subconscious showing you the next step of the bridge. A specific color, object, or scene that keeps arising in your mind is a seed taking root. Once felt as real, that image will migrate outward and appear in your environment. He would tell his students, when the symbol leaves your mind and meets you in the world, it is announcing that the invisible has become visible. You can test this yourself. Choose a simple symbol, a feather, a certain flower, a rare animal, a particular phrase. Feel it with gentle curiosity, not strain. Don't hunt for it. Simply know that it will appear as confirmation that you are in conversation. Then forget it. Within days, perhaps hours, the field will respond. Someone will wear it on a shirt. It will appear in an advertisement, a song lyric, a random post. When it does, pause, smile. You have just witnessed the translation of thought into form. This experiment is not about proof, it is about trust. The moment you acknowledge that life is listening, it starts speaking louder. Symbols are the universal vocabulary of that dialogue. They are ancient, shared by all minds because they are written into the architecture of consciousness itself. The circle, the triangle, the cross, the spiral, these shapes appear in every culture because they are not inventions but discoveries. They are geometric expressions of how energy organizes itself. A circle represents wholeness because the energy of completion always moves in loops. A spiral means evolution because consciousness unfolds in expanding cycles. Fire symbolizes transformation because it consumes what was and gives birth to what will be. These meanings are not cultural, they are energetic. That's why when a specific animal, number, or object appears repeatedly in your path, it carries the same symbolic tone for everyone but with a unique nuance for you. The field tailors the message to your personal mythology. The butterfly might symbolize transformation in general, but for you, it could also echo a memory, a promise, a moment of awakening. The universe always speaks personally through the universal. Neville explained this personalization through the law of assumption. Whatever state you inhabit selects which symbols the field uses to speak to you. If you dwell in a state of renewal, you'll see renewal symbols everywhere: buds opening, sunrises, new beginnings. If you dwell in fear, your symbols will mirror closure, locked doors, storms, endings. The universe is neutral. It reflects without judgment. To shift the conversation, shift your state. If the signs you see feel heavy or foreboding, don't resist them. Thank them. They are showing you your vibration. Then gently move into a new assumption. Feel what relief would feel like. Feel what clarity would feel like. As your inner atmosphere changes, the outer symbols will rearrange. The storm will pass, the doors will open, the signs will glow differently. The dialogue never stops. Only the tone changes. This understanding frees you from superstition. You no longer fear signs, you interpret them. You no longer feel controlled by fate, you recognize participation. Reality becomes a classroom, and every symbol is a lesson written in light. One of Neville's students once asked him how to know whether a sign was genuine or imagined. He answered simply, "You will feel it." Genuine synchronicity carries a charge, a sense of significance that bypasses logic. Jung called it numinosity. It's the feeling that the moment is alive with purpose. When that sensation arises, trust it. The intellect might doubt, but the body knows when the field touches it. That tingling behind your heart, that sudden quiet in your thoughts, that shiver of recognition, that's consciousness resonating with itself. As you grow more attuned, you'll notice that symbols appear in clusters. They converge from multiple directions to underline a message. A number, a phrase, and a dream all echo the same theme. This is the field emphasizing its point. It's the cosmic equivalent of speaking in bold letters. During these clusters, stay receptive but calm. Don't obsess over decoding every detail. Instead, ask inwardly, what is this inviting me to remember? The answer will arrive as intuition, a feeling rather than a sentence. The field speaks through knowing, not explanation. Over time, you begin to sense a rhythm in these communications. There are phases when symbols multiply rapidly, times of transition when you are crossing into a new timeline. Then there are quieter phases when synchronicity fades into the background, allowing integration. Both are necessary. The silence is not absence. It is assimilation. Jung noticed the same pattern in therapy. Breakthroughs were always followed by silence, a calm period where the psyche reorganized itself before the next revelation. The universe, too, breathes this way. Expansion, integration, expansion again. You are living inside that breath. So when synchronicity's slow, don't panic. Don't assume the connection has faded. The conversation continues beneath the surface. The silence between symbols is part of the syntax. It's the comma before the next sentence of creation. Pay attention also to how your physical environment participates. Objects behave symbolically. Lights flicker during emotional breakthroughs. Clocks stop at turning points. Items you lost years ago suddenly resurface when their meaning becomes relevant again. The external world is more conscious than you imagine. Matter itself is responsive. Neville experienced this firsthand. In his lectures, he told of a time when, after imagining a specific scenario for a student, he returned home to find an object related to that scene had literally appeared in his room. It wasn't supernatural. It was synchronicity accelerated by focus. The object was a physical punctuation mark, confirming that imagination had impressed the field deeply enough to materialize matter. When you begin noticing this level of dialogue, reality feels less like something to conquer and more like something to converse with. Every gust of wind, every flicker of light, every pattern of sound becomes part of the same orchestra. The conductor is your state of being. Symbols will continue to evolve with you. Early in your awakening, they appear as reassurance. Later, they function as guidance. Eventually, they become collaboration. At the highest level, you no longer need symbols at all because your awareness and the field move as one rhythm. Yet, until that full coherence stabilizes, symbols are your teachers. They remind you that the universe is not a machine but a mirror. They show you that everything you call external is a message from your own depth. Tonight, when you close your eyes, invite that depth to speak. Say inwardly, "Show me what I need to know in symbols I will recognize." Then sleep with openness. The dream that follows will be your answer. Tomorrow, observe what patterns appear. A phrase, a number, a color, a memory. Write them down. Don't force meaning. Let the meaning reveal itself naturally. The more you practice this, the faster you learn the language. And eventually, you realize that the universe was never trying to teach you a foreign tongue. It was reminding you of your native one, the language of energy, emotion, and imagination. That is how reality replies when you listen deeply enough. Chapter 4. Directing the conversation. At some point, you realize that the universe isn't only leaving you messages, It's waiting for your reply. Every synchronicity that appears is an opening in the conversation. Most people stop at recognition. They see the sign, feel the awe, and then move on. But once you understand that awareness itself is participation, you begin to speak back. This is the art Neville Goddard spent his life teaching. He called it living from the end. To live from the end means to hold your attention, emotion, and imagination inside the reality you wish to experience until it feels inevitable. When that feeling becomes natural, the universe reads it as fact and organizes every coincidence required to make it visible. Reality becomes responsive when you become deliberate. Think of it this way. If synchronicity is the universe's echo, then creation is the tone you send first. You don't have to shout into the field. Even a whisper carries. What matters is coherence, the alignment between what you think, feel, and believe. The more those three harmonize, the more precise the reflection. This is what Neville meant when he said, "Feeling is the secret." The universe doesn't respond to your words or your wishes. It responds to the vibration beneath them. It hears through emotion. Feeling is the dial that tunes your frequency. Gratitude broadcasts completion. Fear transmits delay. Confidence communicates arrival. Whatever you consistently feel, you inevitably meet in physical form. You've already proven this countless times. Remember the mornings when you woke peaceful, unhurried, certain that things would flow easily, and they did? Now recall the days when you felt anxious before anything had even happened, and somehow every little thing mirrored that tension. Neither outcome was coincidence. Both were reflections of your inner state projected onto matter. When you know this, you stop reacting to reality and start composing it. The first step in conscious direction is acknowledgement. Every moment you spend fighting what is only amplifies the current signal. What you resist persists because resistance is energy too. The universe doesn't distinguish between I want and I don't want. It reads only the charge behind your focus. So instead of pushing against what you dislike, shift attention toward what you prefer. Do it softly, not as escape but as redirection. The moment you focus on a desired reality with calm certainty, you send a new tone into the field. The bridge begins to form instantly. Neville taught a simple practice for this: revision. Each night before sleep, replay the day as you wish it had gone. Don't analyze, don't judge. Simply rewrite the scene in imagination until it feels complete and satisfying. Fall asleep in that feeling. To the universe, there is no difference between imagined memory and real memory. Both are vibrations imprinted upon consciousness. By revising a scene, you alter the frequency you broadcast, which in turn alters the chain of incidents that follow. People who practice revision notice that life subtly reshapes itself around the news story. Conversations shift. Misunderstandings resolve. Outcomes change without logic to explain them. That's because you are no longer reacting to the past. You are editing the present from the level of cause. Another form of direction is assumption in advance. Before entering any situation, pause and choose your state. Don't decide what should happen. Decide how you will feel regardless of outcome. Peace, confidence, joy, pick one and settle into it. Then move forward. The moment you carry that chosen feeling into the event reorganizes to match it. You'll notice people responding differently, timing aligning effortlessly, outcomes turning smoother than expected. The universe mirrors not the details of your thoughts, but the essence of your emotion. Jung might have described this as aligning with the archetype of the self, the wholeness that harmonizes opposites. Neville would say you are acting as God imagines. Both are the same truth. Consciousness guiding energy through the lens of identity. When you assume a state, you are declaring identity. You are saying to the universe, "This is who I am now." Reality adjusts to confirm it. To make this practical, choose one area of your life, perhaps a relationship, a creative project, or your sense of purpose. Instead of asking for change, embody the feeling of it already fulfilled. If it's love you desire, feel loved. Not by imagining another's affection, but by remembering what it feels like to rest in warmth, safety, and connection. If it's abundance, feel relief, freedom, generosity, the emotions you associate with already having. Do not strain for images. Let the feeling create the scene. You'll find that your mind naturally paints pictures around the vibration you hold. That is imagination translating emotion into symbol, just as the universe translates it into event. You might ask, but what about doubt? Doubt is natural. It's the echo of old assumptions dissolving. When it arises, don't fight it. Observe it like a cloud passing through clear sky. The sky never argues with clouds. It remains untouched. Goddard often said, "You will not be moved if you remain faithful to your assumption." Faith here means emotional consistency. The bridge may twist and turn, but if you stay anchored in the end result, even apparent setbacks become steps. This is why synchronicity sometimes looks chaotic before it resolves. The field must rearrange countless variables to match your new frequency. Things that no longer resonate may fall away. People may exit your life. Circumstances may shift abruptly. The old energy dismantles itself so that the new can form. If you panic during this transition, you interrupt the bridge. If you trust it, you glide across smoothly. Think of a song transitioning from one key to another. There's a moment of dissonance, notes colliding, tension rising before harmony returns. That's what happens in your life when a new assumption replaces an old one. The noise is proof that transformation is occurring. When you stay centered through that dissonance, reality resolves into a higher octave. Here's how to practice direction consciously. When a synchronicity appears, instead of asking, "What does this mean?" ask, "What state of being is this reflecting?" If it's pleasant, amplify it with gratitude. If it's unpleasant, adjust your inner tone. Every symbol is feedback on your frequency. During your day, cultivate small acts of creative conversation. Speak inwardly as if the universe were your closest friend. Say things like, "Thank you for arranging this perfectly," or "Show me the easiest path." Then release expectation. You'll notice responses appear quickly, doors opening, timing aligning, people showing up with the answers you need. This is not superstition, it's coherence. When your mind and heart agree, the external world synchronizes. Over time, you'll notice that the need for formal technique fades. Your natural state of being becomes the prayer. The field learns your tone, and manifestation becomes as effortless as breathing. Neville called this praying without ceasing. It doesn't mean constant words. It means constant awareness. It means living as if the bridge is always building beneath your feet, because it is. Jung would call this individuation complete, the conscious self unified with the unconscious, the personal harmonized with the cosmic. In this harmony, the conversation between you and the universe becomes seamless. You think, and reality replies before you finish the thought. You feel, and matter rearranges. This level of responsiveness can be startling at first. You might think of a question and see the answer printed on a passing billboard. You might imagine a friend and they appear moments later. You might feel joy for no reason and immediately receive good news. These are not miracles in the old sense. They are signs that your frequency and the field have synchronized. At this stage, intention becomes subtle. You no longer need to visualize elaborate scenes. A single feeling, clear, calm, certain, is enough to shape probabilities. You are operating from the level of cause rather than effect. The universe is no longer something outside you to negotiate with. It has become your own extended body. Everything you touch, every person you meet, every place you stand vibrates with your tone. The conversation never stops because there is no longer a line between speaker and listener. This is why Neville said, "Be still and know that you are." In stillness, you feel the truth that creation and creator are the same awareness wearing different faces. When you rest in that knowing, the need to control dissolves completely. Then creation becomes play. From that playfulness, synchronicities multiply not because you need proof, but because life delights in showing you its responsiveness. Reality becomes your art form. You paint with emotion, sculpt with belief, compose with thought. And through it all, the universe keeps replying, not to your words, but to the silent frequency beneath them. That is the secret language in motion. Chapter 5. Walking the Bridge of Faith. There comes a moment in every awakening when you realize that manifestation isn't a matter of control. It's a matter of surrender. Once you've chosen your end, once you've assumed the feeling of it as real, you must let go of the how. You must walk the invisible bridge that begins forming under your feet the instant your vibration shifts. Neville Goddard called this the bridge of incidents. It's the divine choreography connecting where you are to where your imagination already exists. Every coincidence, delay, conversation, and turn of circumstance becomes part of that bridge. But because the human mind is trained to measure progress through logic, most people never recognize the bridge as it appears. They see it as randomness, or worse, as opposition. Faith is the only map that can guide you across. Faith is not blind belief. It is vision beyond evidence, the ability to feel completion before the senses confirm it. It's the quiet knowing that what you have imagined is already a fact in the unseen, and that time is simply the unfolding of that fact into visibility. Neville used to say, "Persist in the assumption that your desire is fulfilled and it will harden into fact." The bridge of incidents is the hardening process. It's the field reshaping itself around your new identity. This reshaping often looks messy. Old structures collapse to make room for the new vibration. Opportunities disappear because they no longer match your chosen frequency. People drift away. Situations that once made sense lose their meaning. To the untrained eye, it looks like regression. To the awakened one, it's proof of alignment. The field cannot deliver a new reality while you cling to the architecture of the old. The art of walking the bridge is simple. Stay faithful to the end, even when the scenery confuses you. Think of an actor playing the final scene of a story that has not yet been filmed. They perform with conviction because they've read the script. They know where the story goes. You too have read the script through imagination. You know the ending. Faith is performing it before the world catches up. Jung spoke of a similar process in psychological terms. He called it the transcendent function, the bridge the psyche builds between the conscious and unconscious through symbolic action. When the conscious mind commits to a new possibility, the unconscious responds by generating synchronicities that guide the individual toward integration. The outer world begins reflecting the inner transformation through meaningful events. Neville's version is the same truth expressed spiritually. Consciousness assumes and the universe arranges. So how do you remain steady when the bridge shakes? How do you maintain the inner feeling when the outer world contradicts it? The answer is discipline of awareness. Discipline not in the sense of effort, but of consistency. Keep returning your attention to the end. Each time you notice yourself reacting to appearances, pause. Close your eyes. Feel the reality of your desire already complete. Let that feeling saturate your nervous system until your body believes it more than your senses do. This is what Neville called living in the end. It is not denial, it is creative focus. You are not pretending the current circumstances don't exist. You are acknowledging that they are temporary reflections of a previous state. They are echoes from an older vibration still fading from the field. Faith means not panicking while the echo fades. Every time you look at what is and think, "This is not working," you re-energize the old vibration. But when you look at what is and say, "This is part of my bridge," you keep walking. That single shift in interpretation transforms the entire experience. The bridge responds instantly to interpretation because meaning is energy. Imagine receiving an unexpected bill just as you've been assuming financial freedom. The old mind sees contradiction and collapses into worry. The awakened mind smiles, recognizing movement. That bill might be the final scene before the manifestation of abundance, the moment designed to test whether your inner wealth is stable without external validation. If you stay calm, if you remain in the feeling of abundance despite appearance, you pass the test. The next incident will mirror that calm through relief or opportunity. This is how the field teaches you mastery. It presents contrast not to punish, but to refine. It asks, can you remain faithful in shadow as easily as in light? Every test is an invitation to stabilize your vibration. Once stability is reached, the lesson ends. Neville called this divine mercy, life giving you proof of your power through apparent resistance. Without the contrast, you would never recognize your capacity to create through consciousness alone. The more often you practice faith in the unseen, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually, you start expecting the bridge to form. You wake each day with curiosity rather than anxiety. You begin to enjoy the unfolding. That's the secret. Faith turns life from struggle into adventure. Jung might describe it as moving from neurosis to wholeness. The anxious self fights what is. The integrated self collaborates with it. Faith is collaboration. It's agreement with the intelligence arranging reality. As you deepen in trust, you start to perceive the orchestration beneath every coincidence. You see how the smallest delay protected perfect timing. You notice that the wrong turn led to the exact person you needed to meet. The bridge reveals its geometry in hindsight, and awe replaces frustration. You realize that divine intelligence has never made a mistake. One of Neville's most famous stories illustrates this perfectly. A woman longed to live in a particular apartment. She imagined herself there nightly, touching the walls in her mind, smelling the air, feeling the keys in her hand. Weeks later, she learned the apartment had been rented to someone else. Her friends told her to give up, but she persisted inwardly. She continued to walk the bridge unseen. Months passed. The tenant who had rented the apartment unexpectedly left, and she was offered the exact space under even better conditions. The bridge had been building all along, through other people's decisions, through timing she could never have orchestrated. Her only task was to maintain the state of fulfillment until the physical world harmonized. This is the law in action. Sustained feeling reshapes the probabilities of the universe. But to sustain feeling, you must rest in surrender. Surrender isn't passivity. It's receptive power, the willingness to let intelligence higher than your reasoning handle the details. You stop demanding that life unfold your way. You start trusting that your way was inspired by life itself. This trust quiets the mind. The chatter of when and how fades. You move through your days with a gentle certainty that things are aligning, even if you can't yet see how. That certainty creates coherence, and coherence accelerates manifestation. Faith compresses time. The more convinced you are of completion, the less distance there is between imagination and experience. Time is only the delay between inner conviction and outer reflection. When conviction becomes total, reflection becomes instantaneous. This is why masters seem to create effortlessly. Their faith is so steady that the bridge forms in real time. They think, feel, and witness almost simultaneously. For most, the lag remains, but faith shortens it. You can feel this compression as your awareness expands. Events that used to take months now happen in days. Signs appear before you even voice your intention. The bridge no longer feels like a long path. It feels like a living presence moving with you. The universe starts anticipating your needs because your vibration declares them before you speak. At this point, Manifestation becomes less about getting and more about being. You no longer chase outcomes because you've realized that all outcomes are reflections of the same source, your consciousness. The bridge becomes a playground, not a test. To walk it gracefully, maintain 3 attitudes: gratitude, curiosity, and surrender. Gratitude tells the field that you trust its timing. Curiosity keeps you open to unexpected paths. Surrender allows the orchestration to occur without interference. Together, these attitudes keep your vibration high and your bridge stable. Each night, before you sleep, review your day as a dialogue. Notice where you reacted with fear and where you responded with faith. Don't judge, simply observe. Then revise any fearful moments by imagining them resolved. Drift into rest with the feeling that all is well. This nightly practice aligns your conscious and subconscious minds, ensuring that the bridge builds continuously even while you sleep. Remember, your future self is already across the bridge. They are the ones sending you these insights, the one arranging the synchronicities, the one guiding your steps. Every time you relax into trust, you merge more fully with that self. The day will come when you no longer distinguish between who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. You'll realize that all 3 have always been one consciousness communicating across time. That realization is the highest form of faith, not belief in something outside you, but recognition of what you have always been. When you know that consciousness itself is the bridge, walking becomes effortless. You stop looking for signs and start living as the sign. Everything you touch becomes luminous because your faith no longer seeks confirmation. It radiates confirmation. The bridge never ends because creation never stops. Each fulfilled desire becomes the foundation for the next expansion. Faith is the path that allows evolution to continue forever. And with every step you take in trust, the universe smiles, not because it's testing you, but because it's watching. You remember that the conversation was never between 2 separate beings. It was always one awareness speaking to itself through the language of faith. Chapter 6. The Union of the 2 Minds. There is a moment when all the seeking begins to collapse into simplicity. You start to understand that the mechanics of manifestation, the signs, the synchronicities, the bridges, all of them have been guiding you toward one realization, that there are not 2 powers, not 2 realities, not even 2 minds. There is only consciousness expressing itself at different depths. Neville Goddard called these depths the conscious and the subconscious. One is the sculptor, the other the stone. The conscious mind selects the image. The subconscious gives it life. The conscious chooses the end. The subconscious builds the bridge. They are not enemies. They are partners in creation. When they move as one, creation becomes effortless. You live inside this partnership every day, whether you're aware of it or not. Every thought you think carries a feeling. Every feeling imprints itself on the deeper mind. The subconscious is the womb of the universe. It receives impressions without question. It cannot argue or reason. It simply accepts the image presented with the most emotion behind it. That's why Neville said, "Feeling is the secret." The conscious mind can shout 1,000 affirmations, but if the emotion contradicts them, the subconscious hears the feeling, not the words. Emotion is the vibration that instructs the deeper layers of reality what to form. Jung would have called this dynamic the relationship between the ego and the self, the dialogue between the surface identity and the vast unconscious from which it arises. He discovered that when the ego aligns with the wisdom of the unconscious, synchronicity multiplies. When it fights against it, chaos appears. Neville and Jung met at the same horizon, unity between the seen and unseen. Once this unity begins to stabilize in your own life, you notice that manifestation is no longer about making something happen. It's about allowing what has already happened in the unseen to emerge. The conscious mind declares, "It is done," and the subconscious says, So be it. That's the marriage of heaven and earth inside you. The conscious is masculine, directive, choosing, initiating. The subconscious is feminine, receptive, nurturing, creative. Their union gives birth to form. When the two disagree, the offspring is confusion. When they harmonize, the offspring is coherence, a reality that feels miraculously aligned. This union is what ancient mystics called the sacred marriage, the inner alchemy of opposites. It is the moment when thought and feeling stop contradicting each other. You no longer imagine one thing and feel another. Your inner state becomes whole, and the outer world mirrors that wholeness with mathematical precision. You can sense when this union is occurring. There's a silence underneath your thoughts, a warm certainty that doesn't depend on evidence. You stop rehearsing affirmations and start feeling them as truths. The energy in your body feels lighter. You breathe differently. The space around you seems charged, yet calm. That calm is creation in progress. When the conscious mind stops doubting, the subconscious moves instantly. It begins rearranging events, people, and timing in ways your intellect could never design. This is the deeper meaning behind Neville's statement. The subconscious is not a blind force. It is mind acting with infinite intelligence. The subconscious is not yours alone. It is the shared ocean of awareness beneath all individuality, what Jung called the collective unconscious. It contains every symbol, memory, and potential form of expression. When you impress an image upon it, you are instructing the entire field of existence. The world must respond because the world is the subconscious projected outward. You can watch this in real time. Imagine something simple, perhaps receiving a compliment, or hearing good news, or feeling unexpectedly supported. Imagine it with emotion until your body believes it, then let it go. Within a short while, the field will mirror it back through someone's words or a small event. The more unified your thought and feeling, the faster the response. At first, these reflections arrive as coincidences. Later, they become instant feedback. Eventually, you reach a state where the inner and outer happen simultaneously. You think, and the answer appears in the same breath. That is the state of conscious-subconscious unity. In that state, the need for effort disappears. You act not to make things happen, but because action feels natural, the physical echo of an inner completion. Neville described this as acting in the outer world as though what you imagined were already true. It's not pretending. It's embodiment. When you move as if it's done, the subconscious interprets the movement as confirmation and the bridge builds faster. But this union requires purity of focus. The subconscious cannot serve two masters. If your attention is divided between faith and fear, the signal becomes scrambled. One moment you send an image of success, the next you send worry. The field responds to both, creating confusion. The solution isn't to suppress fear, but to bring it into awareness and dissolve it through love. Fear is simply faith in the wrong direction, belief in separation, belief that the universe is not listening. When you see it for what it is, it loses power. Neville advised that the best time to communicate with the subconscious is at the edge of sleep, the state akin to sleep, or SATS, as his students later called it. In that drowsy borderland, the conscious mind is relaxed and the subconscious is open. Images impressed in this state sink deeply into the creative layer of mind. He suggested a simple method. Lie still, feel your desire fulfilled, and fall asleep in that feeling. Don't force visualization, simply dwell in the emotion of completion. The subconscious receives that emotion and begins constructing the outer reflection immediately. You can feel the transmission occur. There's a subtle click, a sense that something within has accepted the scene as real. From that point onward, physical events start rearranging. Sometimes within days, sometimes within hours. The reason this works is because the subconscious exists beyond linear time. To it, imagination and experience are the same. Once it accepts an image, it rearranges the timeline to match. What looks like future manifestation is really memory solidifying. You are simply remembering what your deeper self already created. Jung approached the same mystery through dream analysis. He observed that when a patient integrated a new insight at the unconscious level, their external life adjusted accordingly. Synchronicities followed therapy breakthroughs because the psyche and the world were one field reorganizing itself. You can experience this same integration consciously. Each time you impress a new assumption upon the subconscious, you are rewriting your personal mythology. Life, as the mirror of that mythology, must shift to reflect it. To strengthen this process, practice receptive stillness. Spend a few minutes each day in quiet awareness, neither imagining nor analyzing. Simply rest in being. In that rest, the conscious and subconscious synchronize. The surface self relaxes its control, and the deeper self rises to meet it. This state feels like surrender but carries immense power. You may notice that synchronicities multiply afterward, as if reality exhaled in relief. The bridge becomes smoother because your two minds are no longer pulling in opposite directions. Once unity stabilizes, the signs you used to chase become constant companions. Life itself starts finishing your sentences. You think of someone and they text. You wonder about a question and the answer appears in the next song lyric. The gap between thought and manifestation narrows until the two are inseparable. At this stage, it's crucial to remain humble. Power without humility collapses into illusion. The moment you believe the ego is creating independently, resistance returns. Remember, creation happens through you, not from you. You are the channel, not the source. True mastery feels less like control and more like participation. You are the wave, remembering it is the ocean. This remembrance transforms how you view others. You no longer see separate minds but variations of the same subconscious field expressing itself through different perspectives. Judging others feels unnatural because you recognize that every judgment is self-judgment. Compassion replaces criticism. The language of the universe flows through kindness as easily as through imagination. When you reach this understanding, the world begins to mirror peace back to you. People treat you differently. Circumstances cooperate. Even nature seems gentler. The external becomes an extension of your internal harmony. This harmony is what Neville meant when he said, "You are in the world but not of it." You still participate in daily life, you work, you create, you love, but you know that the true stage is within. You live from cause, not effect. Synchronicity, which once seemed like magic, becomes everyday communication. The subconscious sends you signals through timing and symbol, and you answer through imagination and emotion. The conversation flows continuously, effortless as breathing. And then comes the final realization. The conscious and subconscious were never two minds at all. They were two perspectives of one consciousness, pretending to be separate so it could experience reunion. When this truth dawns, something extraordinary happens. You feel a wave of peace so deep it silences every question. You understand that every prayer, every manifestation, every desire was a way for the universe to know itself through you. You are not learning to speak to the universe. You are remembering that you are its voice. The bridge you've been walking was never built to connect two places. It was built to remind you that there was only ever one field, one awareness, one infinite mind imagining itself into form. The conscious and the subconscious, the human and the divine, the observer and the observed, all dissolve into the same luminous stillness. And in that stillness, creation continues, but now as play, as art, as joy. Chapter 7. Living the language every day. When the two minds finally move as one, life begins to feel lighter. You no longer carry the weight of control. You carry the rhythm of cooperation. Each day becomes an unfolding conversation between your awareness and the field. The distinction between prayer and action disappears. Every breath, every gesture, every thought is part of the dialogue. This is what Neville Goddard meant by living in the end. It isn't a ritual you perform once before sleep, it's a constant orientation. You walk through ordinary situations as the person who already knows the wish is fulfilled. You don't fake confidence. You relax into it. You don't force optimism. You embody gratitude. Reality reorganizes itself around that ease. You begin to notice that decisions no longer feel like guesses. They arise from an inner clarity that bypasses analysis. You simply know which direction to take, and when you follow that knowing, everything aligns: timing, people, resources. This is the practical miracle of living the law. Intelligence guiding you from within instead of pressure directing you from fear. Faith turns into instinct. When Neville described the bridge of incidents, he wasn't pointing to supernatural coincidence. He was describing the natural order that reveals itself when your state is coherent. The universe doesn't need manipulation, it responds to rhythm. Once your rhythm matches the feeling of fulfillment, life becomes orchestral. The right scenes appear without strain. Imagine waking up tomorrow and moving through your day with this awareness. You greet every event as communication. Traffic isn't delay, it's pause. A conversation that seems random carries insight. The stranger who smiles at you is a mirror of your own frequency. Even challenge becomes signal, the field adjusting your vibration. Living this way turns the world into scripture written in real time. You begin to read reality as sacred text, each symbol a verse, each moment a line of teaching. Jung observed that when a person aligns with the self, the archetype of wholeness, life begins to arrange itself with purpose. Synchronicity increases, creativity flourishes, meaning saturates ordinary events. Neville's language was different, but his conclusion identical. When imagination and feeling unite, divine order emerges. That divine order is not distant. It lives in every detail of your day. Consider something as simple as your morning routine. When you wake, instead of reaching for the phone or replaying yesterday's thoughts, pause. Feel gratitude for existence itself. Before you stand, whisper silently, "I already am the person I've been becoming." Let that feeling settle. That 2-second awareness sets your frequency for the entire day. You've sent a signal. The field begins responding immediately. As you move through your morning, observe how reality mirrors your tone. When you radiate calm, time expands. When you rush, everything clutters. When you remember that the universe is conscious, even the smallest tasks become communion. Washing dishes becomes meditation. Walking becomes conversation. Neville taught that imagination creates reality, but he also insisted that imagination is continual. Every idle thought, every emotional reaction is a small act of creation. Living the language means becoming aware of those micro-creations. The key is gentleness. Awareness isn't about self-criticism. It's about curiosity. When you notice a fearful thought, don't battle it. Ask, what assumption is this revealing? Then revise it internally. Replace, I hope this works out, with it already has. Replace, I'm not ready with I am prepared. The subconscious accepts whichever version carries more emotion. Over time, your habitual tone of thought shifts. You find yourself expecting harmony instead of conflict, ease instead of struggle. That expectation becomes self-fulfilling because consciousness fulfills itself. Faith becomes lifestyle. Relationships transform under this awareness. You no longer approach others from need or defense. You recognize that everyone you meet is an echo of your inner state. If someone triggers you, it's not punishment, it's revelation. They're showing you the vibration still active within you. Bless them for it. They're part of your bridge. When you maintain peace even in disagreement, you're teaching the field how to respond. People start mirroring your calm. Conversations that once spiraled into chaos resolve gently. This is the unseen law shaping human connection. Neville once said, "No one to change but self." He didn't mean selfishness, he meant mastery. The outer world is a projection of the inner, so to transform relationships, transform consciousness. Jung framed the same insight through projection theory. What we reject in ourselves, we encounter in others. The universe, through relationship, gives us back our unintegrated aspects so we can reclaim them. When you see life this way, judgment dissolves. Every encounter becomes integration. Every challenge becomes refinement. Living the language means responding to life symbolically rather than emotionally. A closed door doesn't mean rejection. It means redirection. An ending isn't loss, it's completion. You start seeing pattern instead of chaos. The pattern has rhythm, and you begin to dance with it. At this stage, you notice that the gap between desire and manifestation continues to shrink. Sometimes what you imagine in the morning materializes by evening. You might think of someone and receive their message instantly. You might visualize a scene and encounter it that same day. It's tempting to call this power, but it's better described as alignment. The river flows effortlessly when you stop swimming against it. Even so, living in alignment doesn't mean a life without contrast. Periods of stillness return, seasons where synchronicity seems to fade. These moments aren't regression. They're integration. The field pauses to let you embody the vibration you've been cultivating. During these quiet phases, rest. Nurture yourself. Create from joy rather than urgency. Neville reminded his students that the universe works through cycles: seed, growth, harvest, rest. The silence between manifestations is the soil regenerating. Jung saw the same principle in psychological development. After each illumination, the psyche withdraws to assimilate. Darkness follows light not as punishment but as balance. When you understand this rhythm, patience becomes natural. You stop digging up seeds to check their progress. You trust that once planted in imagination, the harvest is inevitable. To reinforce this trust, practice daily moments of knowing without asking. Whenever you catch yourself worrying, pause and say inwardly, "It is done." Don't try to feel excitement. Feel normalcy. The secret to manifestation is not passion but familiarity. When your desire feels ordinary, the universe reads it as fact. Living the language also means serving others through your state. The peace you cultivate radiates invisibly. You might never know how many lives it steadies. A calm mind influences its environment more powerfully than words. This is why Neville said the awakened individual becomes a blessing to the world without effort. Jung might call it individuation's gift to the collective, a single conscious soul harmonizing the unconscious of humanity. You're already contributing simply by existing in awareness. As this lifestyle deepens, you begin to sense a quiet humor in the universe. It plays with you. You think of rain and clouds gather playfully. You need a reminder to rest, and the power flickers, forcing a pause. The cosmic intelligence speaks in synchronicities that feel like winks. You laugh more, you worry less. You start to understand why enlightened beings are described as joyful, not because life is perfect, but because they recognize the game. This joy is not fragile happiness, it's stable contentment. It doesn't depend on outcomes because it comes from knowing that every outcome is ultimately you communicating with yourself. When you live from this realization, purpose becomes effortless. You don't hunt for destiny, you express it. The actions that feel alive are the ones meant for you. Passion becomes compass. The work you do becomes meditation. Success loses its anxiety because you understand that expansion is the nature of consciousness itself. You stop chasing meaning and start creating it. Each morning becomes a ceremony of alignment. Each evening becomes gratitude for the dialogue you had with existence. Sleep becomes communion with the deeper mind. Dreams become instructions for the next day's creation. This is what it means to live the secret language, to exist in continuous translation between energy and form. The ordinary world remains, but it glows differently. Light feels thicker, sound carries depth. You catch yourself staring at the sky with the quiet awareness that you and it are the same presence in different costumes. In this state, even silence speaks. You find that life no longer demands certainty, it offers wonder. You don't need to know how things will unfold because you trust the intelligence orchestrating them. That trust is faith matured into knowing. Living in this way, you become what Neville called the awakened imagination, God fully aware of its own dream. Jung would call it the realized self, consciousness recognizing itself through matter. Every choice, every breath, every heartbeat is part of that recognition. And the greatest miracle is how normal it feels. You don't float through life as mystic spectacle. You still laugh, pay bills, cook meals, hold hands. But beneath it all flows a constant current of peace that cannot be shaken. That peace is the universe's native language, and you are now fluent. When you move from this peace, creation becomes effortless. Synchronicities no longer surprise you, they affirm you. Life becomes a story written and read at once, imagination composing its own adventure through your eyes. This is how Neville lived. This is what Jung discovered. And this is what the universe has been whispering to you through every symbol, every dream, every heartbeat. It was never trying to teach you how to manifest things. It was guiding you to remember what you are, consciousness having a conversation with itself through the mirror of reality. You are not learning the language anymore. You are living it. Chapter 8. The moment you realize you were the universe all along, there comes a silence after understanding, a stillness so deep it feels infinite. It is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of completion. It's the sound of everything returning home. In that quiet, you finally understand what every synchronicity, every dream, every lesson was trying to show you. The universe was never outside of you. It was your own consciousness wearing a million disguises, speaking through circumstance, through people, through time. This is the moment Neville Goddard called the awakening to the one cause. He said there is no other. No external deity distributing fate, no luck deciding your course. Only imagination, infinite awareness assuming form and naming itself. I. You realize that the same awareness that looked out from your eyes has been looking through every pair of eyes that ever existed. The same breath that moves your lungs is the pulse of the cosmos expanding and contracting across galaxies. The same intelligence that guides planets in their orbits beats your heart without your instruction. You are not a part of the universe. You are its perception. You are the dreamer and the dream. The great illusion was always separation, the belief that you were a fragment trying to connect to something larger. The truth is simpler. You never left the wholeness. You only fell asleep to it. When you awaken from that dream of separation, reality changes texture. The air feels softer, the colors brighter, time slower. You move through life as if gliding. Each event feels intentional, each meeting meaningful. The universe no longer needs to shout through chaos because you hear its whisper in everything. This is the culmination of Neville's teaching. He said, "Your own wonderful human imagination is God." He didn't mean imagination as fantasy, but as the living awareness that animates existence. You are not using imagination. You are imagination imagining itself. And this recognition doesn't inflate you with arrogance. It dissolves you into awe. You understand that the power that creates worlds is the same power that smiles through a child, that grows trees, that forms clouds. It isn't personal ownership, it's participation in the infinite. Jung approached this realization from the psychological side. He observed that as a person individuates, the boundaries of ego dissolve and the self emerges as a symbol of the divine. He wrote that the psyche itself is of cosmic origin, and the more one becomes whole, the more one reflects the structure of the universe. Both men were describing the same awakening, one through mysticism, one through science. The end of the path is identical, the return of awareness to itself. You see it clearly now. The universe was never sending you signs, you were sending them to yourself. The numbers, the symbols, the bridges, the delays, all of them were your consciousness arranging reminders, breadcrumbs leading you home. Every unanswered prayer was preparation. Every detour was design. Every coincidence was confirmation. In that recognition, resentment disappears. You stop asking, "Why did that happen?" and start saying, "Of course it happened that way." The puzzle pieces reveal their pattern. What once looked like random hardship becomes orchestration. You see how perfectly life was engineered for awakening. This realization births a tenderness that cannot be taught. You start to love everything, not in sentimentality but in understanding. You love the noise because it was music in training. You love the pain because it carved space for joy. You love the illusion because it made remembering possible. That love is the purest state of awareness. It's what mystics call divine compassion, the recognition that nothing is outside the heart of creation. In this state, manifestation shifts from desire to expression. You no longer ask for things to complete you. You create to share joy. You paint because the universe loves color through you. You sing because life wants to hear itself. You help others awaken not to fix them, but because the same awareness is awakening through every form. Service becomes natural, like breathing. You don't need a reason to be kind. Kindness is simply what happens when you remember who you are. This remembering changes your relationship with time. Past and future lose their rigidity. You realize they were never linear, only layered. The future is not waiting, it is resonating. The past is not gone, it is reinterpreted. Every moment of awareness rewrites the story. You can feel this now, the way memory rearranges itself under new light. What you once called mistakes reveal themselves as masterstrokes in a painting too vast to see from within. You stop chasing purpose. You are purpose. The simple act of existing consciously fulfills the entire intention of creation. Neville said that the highest prayer is thanksgiving, not gratitude for what's coming, but gratitude because it already exists. When you live in this awareness, gratitude becomes your natural language. You wake up thankful without needing a reason. And the more gratitude flows, the more life expands to mirror it. The feedback loop completes itself. Consciousness delights in recognition. It celebrates being seen by itself. At this level, the bridge of incidents becomes instantaneous. The lag between imagination and reality collapses. Thought and form move together, like lightning and thunder happening as one sound. You think love, and it fills the room. You think peace, and tension dissolves. You don't project anymore. You radiate. Everything you meet recognizes you. The wind brushes your skin differently. The sun feels like an embrace. Even strangers respond with familiarity as if some invisible language connects you. And it does, the secret language you've been learning all along, the vibration of unity. You realize that the universe is alive not because it has life, but because it is life, and you are that life aware of itself. Jung would have called this state the coincidentia oppositorum, the unity of opposites, where spirit and matter, heaven and earth, conscious and unconscious merge. Neville called it the promise, the realization that God became man so man could remember himself as God. Both were describing the same homecoming. You can feel the completion in your chest right now. The same stillness that exists between galaxies exists in your heartbeat. The same intelligence that paints nebulae is composing your next thought. Everything is sacred because everything is you. From this awareness, you finally understand what creation was never about. It wasn't about building worlds to escape boredom. It was about love expressing itself as infinity. The universe is not expanding into emptiness. It's expanding into recognition, each star, each life, each moment remembering itself as light. And you, standing here in human form, are that recognition in motion. This understanding doesn't remove you from daily life. It deepens it. You still pay bills, make choices, experience emotion. But you do it with the awareness that every movement is divine choreography. You're not trying to ascend away from the world. You're descending fully into it, eyes open. You become the calm in chaos, the light in confusion, the bridge between heaven and earth. People sense it. They may not know why they feel peace around you, but they do. You've become a living translation of the infinite consciousness made tangible. That is the true purpose of awakening. Not escape, but embodiment. When you live as this awareness, death loses meaning. You know that what dies was never you. You've worn countless forms and will wear countless more, yet the witness remains unchanged. The movie ends, but the screen is eternal. This recognition is freedom beyond measure. You no longer fear loss because you understand that nothing real can be lost. Every person, every memory, every dream exists eternally in consciousness, waiting to be revisited when vibration aligns. In the end, all spiritual paths lead here, to this quiet knowing. There was never a dialogue between you and the universe. There was only the universe talking to itself in the language of you. The numbers, the synchronicities, the symbols, the feelings, all of them were your own consciousness leaving signposts to help you remember. Now that you've remembered, the signs will not stop. They will evolve. They will become art, music, laughter, creation. They will no longer call you home because you are home. Take a breath. Feel the air enter your lungs. That's the universe breathing itself. Feel your heartbeat. That's the pulse of creation confirming presence. This is it, the culmination of every message, every symbol, every bridge. The secret language of the universe is the silence behind all words, the stillness saying I am. You are that stillness. You are that language. You are that universe. And now you remember.